God is good, isn't he? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. It sounded like a bunch of educated people, a lot of people who spent time in the suites, but I also know you know the streets. So I'm going to say it one more time. God is good, isn't he? All the time. The Bible suggests where there is no vision, the people perish. It also suggests, be hot or be cold. If you lukewarm, I'll fat you out. Translation. Even God is not like mediocrity. There's a great author named Deepak Chopra, and he suggests that we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We were spiritual beings having a human experience. This meeting today was not put together by institutions. Institutions Baptist, Rutgers Baptist, Russell Simmons Baptist, all the organizations and heroes and sheroes Baptist, President of the United States of America and his administration Baptist. At the end of the day, you don't do business with companies or governments, you do business with people. And life's about relationships. Will you just join me just for a second to say thank you to all the people behind the institutions that made today possible. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about funds or infrastructure or policy or procedures. I want to talk about the stats and the facts that have driven today's dialogue. You've heard all of that. But what I know is that America is not built on that foundation. America uses those as tools for her foundation, but America is an idea. It's a beautiful idea. And really, entrepreneurship is about monetizing and organizing ideas. You think about what makes America great. Yes, there are diversity and you never give up and all that. But 4.5 million patents in this world, and 2/3 of them are in the United States of America. You think about that. What's a patent? It's an idea. It's an idea that's been organized and systemized and structured, yes, and monetized. But you then say, what does that have to do with entrepreneurship? And what does that have to do with us here today? Largest economy in the world is still the United States of America. What are the next countries with the most patents? You guessed it, it's the UK, it's Germany, it's Japan, all the high GDP countries. What's the country with one patent? Iraq, North Korea. It's where the entrepreneurship is not alive, it's where the ideas are not expressed, it's where freedom does not exist. One could argue that the 20th century was about democracy all around the world. And the way you codify democracy in the hands of the average person was the right to vote. How you empowered somebody, Michael Blake, the 20th century was the right to vote. Where did that manifest? Manifested in South Africa with Nelson Mandela, manifested in Gandhi in India, manifested with Michael Collins in Ireland, manifested in the southern states with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and my hero Andrew Young. But what's the 21st century? We live in a global economic environment. So if you don't understand the language of money today, financial literacy, and you don't have a bank account today, you're an economic slave. Our Andrew Young and I were with the president of the World Bank, and Andrew Young said, you know, President Zolik, you go around the world promoting free enterprise and capitalism, and that's a good thing. But who's teaching anybody the rules of free enterprise and capitalism? I decided to make that my mission. And so if the 20th century was about civil rights, here and around the world, then maybe the 21st century is going to be about civil rights. It's not about the streets but the sweet. It's not about race or color lines, but class and poverty. It's about a hand up and not just a hand out. It's about Dr. King's dream that was never completed. Maybe this is more than a conference. And maybe this is not about what President Obama can do for us, but what we can do to help President Obama. Maybe this is about reimagining what we want in this nation and in this world. This is not a recession. This is a reset. This is not an economic crisis. This is a crisis of virtues and values, where companies treated people like transactions and not as relationships, where we had a focus on me and not about we. And even in the area of entrepreneurship, we got confused about and lost our storyline about what we were here to do. It came about getting paid and not building wealth. I'm sorry, that went right over your head. Let me see if I can come at that a different way. There's a difference between being broke and being poor. To be broke is economic, but to be poor is a disabling frame of mind and a depressed condition of your spirit, and you must vow never, ever, ever to be poor again. So wealth is inside out, but riches are outside on. So if I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. If I don't feel good about me, I'm not going to feel good about you. If I don't respect me, I'll never respect you. And if I don't have a purpose in my life, I'm going to make your life a living hell. You're not dealing with people in these communities, these urban communities, who are so much broke, but maybe so much poor. And the most dangerous person in the world is a person with no hope. But look at you. And think about Dr. King's dream. Think about 1968 when he was killed in Memphis. What was he doing? He was focused on the poor people's campaign. And that was about taking poor whites and poor blacks and poor Latinos and poor Asians and poor African Americans. It's more poor whites in America than poor anybody else. So we're all in this together. In fact, today, if you're living in New York City and you make less than $70,000 a year, you are struggling to make ends meet. Can I get that, man? Oh, you're awake out there. But I didn't say 70,000 in black or 70,000 in white or 70,000 in Latino. In fact, today, whether you're white, black, red, brown, or yellow, you just want to have some more green. Class, not race. But Dr. King in 1968 said in the Portugal campaign, you cannot legislate goodness, and you cannot pass a law to force someone to respect you. About the only way to social justice in a capitalist country was economic parity. That was Dr. King in 1968. Let's go back to 63. When he was in Israel and he was on the Jericho Road, he always wanted to go, but he talked about the Good Samaritan and the Jericho Road. And he was on the Jericho Road, and a reporter said, Dr. King, you remind me of the Good Samaritan on the Jericho Road. And Dr. King said nothing. He was with his wife, Coretta Scott King, who I might add, without which there probably would be no King legacy today. Because she gave 20 years of her life after he died to make sure he was alive and well. I'll get back to that. Quincy Jones has taken 20 years to change your culture. I'd argue in the last 20 years we've made dumb sexy. We've dumbed down and celebrated it. And we've got to make smart sexy again. You are all going to help make smart sexy again. Back to the story. So when Dr. King got back from the Jericho Road, the reporter said, you remind me of the Good Samaritan on the Jericho Road. He said nothing. And later, my hero, my mentor, Andrew Young, he said, Andy, Pastor Young said to Marty, he called him Marty. I called Dr. King, said, Marty, you didn't say anything to that reporter. He said, well, Andy, I like the Good Samaritan, and we need Good Samaritans. And I respect the Good Samaritan, but I don't want to be a Good Samaritan. He said, Andy, I've been on that Jericho Road. It's got blind corners, it's got dirt roads, it's got unpaved streets, it's got ditches, and it's got people laying in wait. And I'm tired of seeing my people laying in a ditch like a victim beside the Jericho Road. He said, Andy, I want to fix the Jericho Road. I want to pave the Jericho Road. I want to see street lights up along the Jericho Road. I want to see community development along the Jericho Road. I want to see small business owners and homeowners along the Jericho Road. I want to see young people who want a hand up and not just a handout along the Jericho Road. I want to see wealthy, I didn't say rich, young people who want to do for themselves, who can do well and do good, do well by doing good. You fast forward to today, and you look at this crisis. People don't change in good times. They change in bad times. No one changes when they're comfortable. They change when they're uncomfortable. We are all very uncomfortable. The numbers for small business and entrepreneurship grew from 94 to 2007, mostly with blacks and minorities and women, by the way. But the numbers died after 2007, and in some ways they are in a free fall, and some people are getting afraid, and this crisis moved from a credit crisis to a financial crisis to a liquidity crisis, and then an economic crisis and a crisis of confidence. And now people are getting afraid. And fear is a prosperity killer. I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself out here. I don't know with me, but fear is a prosperity killer. But let me tell you something. We've been doing so much for so little for so long, we can almost do anything with nothing. Let me tell you something. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. It is a scientific fact. Let me tell you something about an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur works 18 hours a day to keep from getting a job. Let me tell you something about redefining success for anybody in here who really knows the blood of entrepreneurship. You got to redefine success, Michael Blake. Success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Never, ever, ever give up. We talk about Hank Aaron and we applaud him, and we should. He has the most home runs, but he also has the record for the most strikeouts. Twice as many strikeouts as he has home runs. Or we talk about Martin Luther King Jr. and I have a dream speech. Although my pastor, Reverend Murray, would say the best way to start living your dream is to start by waking up. But we talk about that dream as if it's the end-all, be-all. The reality is, again, that I have a dream speech 100 times before the Marshal in Washington. What would have happened in America if he had given up the 88th time? When people were walking out at the end of a conference, or kids were going to sleep in the middle of the speech, you know what happened? They called him Martin Luther King and Martin Luther Coon. They called him Uncle Tom. It wasn't just the nice things you hear about today. But rainbows only follow storms. First they ignore you, then they criticize you, and then you win. First they ignore you, and then they criticize you, and then you win. What would have happened if Dr. King did not give that speech the 99th time? There'd be no President Barack Obama today. So let me bring this home. Let me make this relevant to this conversation as we come to a close of this great day. In my book, Love Leadership, I talk about Love Creates Leaders. It's my favorite chapter. Because nobody woke up in the morning and said, I want to start a cancer foundation. People who start cancer foundations are people whose lives have been impacted by cancer. You know somebody who had cancer. You love somebody who had cancer. Or you had cancer. And so, we've been doing, as I said already, so much for so little for so long, we didn't almost do anything with nothing. Nobody can survive and thrive better than we can. People say, well, we don't have capital. Really? Is that right? Capital comes from the Latin word capitalis. meaning knowledge in the head. But if you're poor here, you will be poor here. I can give $1 million for a homeless man with the best of intentions, and he will be broke in 6 months. Unless he has a different skill set and a different toolbox and a different mentality. We are enough all by ourselves is my message. The book The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell says that, and it's scientifically proven now, 5% of role models in any community stabilize. Now, I don't know about you, but that's enough for me to have hope. I didn't say 80% role models. I didn't say 50% role models. I didn't even say 10% role models. Hope is so powerful. You need a super minority of it to change the world. 5% role models will stabilize the community. Why are you an entrepreneur? You saw an entrepreneur. Why are you a professional? You saw a professional. Why are you wearing a suit? You saw somebody wearing a suit. You want to change the world? Go right back here in your community in Newark. Go back to Harvard. Go to Detroit. Go to where you grew up. Go into a classroom and teach a course in dignity. Share your story. Make smart sexy again. That little girl never saw a woman with a business suit on with a business card. Because when she sees you, she says, wow, I can be you. The young man has never seen a man, a black man or a brown man with a business card and suit on. And after an hour of that, he says, I can be you. Reminds me of young Derek coming to a Banking of Our Future classroom, and we were teaching financial literacy and the language of money and the course in dignity. And the first time we came in, he was sort of slouching in his seat. Second session, he came in, he's sitting up in his seat. By the third session, he sort of had his hands up in the air sort of tentatively. By the fourth session, he was punching a hole in the sky. By the fifth session, he wore his only suit he owned, his Sunday best. And of course, kids would tease him. Man, why you hang around those people? They ain't about nothing. You can come hang out with us. So I go to Derek and two of his friends, his so-called friends, who's talking about him. I said, I'm going to give you each $70, and I want you to make a decision about Nike. You got 5 minutes. They said, we don't need 5 minutes. These are now 12-year-old kids. We want to buy some Air Jordans, the other two kids said. I said, well, that's another $30, and that's a whole other thing. And then young Derek says, well, I want to buy one share of Nike stock. So the kids start teasing, man, why you want to buy that Nike stock? That ain't about nothing. You need to get you these Air Jordans. Everybody in school has Air Jordans. Black Air Jordans, purple Air Jordans, gray Air Jordans, suede Air Jordans. You got to get you some Air Jordans. So I'm going to defend Derek Garner. Keep in mind, he's gone through the course in dignity. He saw a youth in a classroom. He's gone through financial literacy course. He's got in his mind entrepreneurship. And I'm going to defend his argument. No, it's cool. I want them to buy those shoes. Because when they do, they're making mean money. Derek will never be poor again. I don't know if you got that. Don't tell me what we cannot do. Derek will never, he may not have any money. He may be come up from the floor up. He may be so poor he don't have an OR then. He just poor. Some of y'all don't understand that. I'm sorry. That's what the confidence is. But he will never be poor. He knows who he is. He knows what he's going to do. He knows how to do it. He can dream big dreams because he has seen it before. Is Jamel Larkins in this room? Jamel, walk up here for me. Jamel is 27 years young. Jamel started his dreaming at age 12, and I shall say that everybody teased Jamel. Come up here, Jamel. Jamel wanted to be a pilot, and everybody dismissed Jamel. His friends thought he was dorky. His mother, this was paranoid and crazy too, but anyway, they backed his dream. But Jamel saw a pilot, and Jamel saw possibilities, and Jamel saw a role model, and a hero, and a shero, And at 15 years of age, Jamel wanted to be a pilot. They wouldn't give him a license in America, so he decided to go to Canada. He came back and started his business. He just cut to the chase. The man is doing $12 million in revenue a year today. He's about to buy a company and do $25 million. He pays 20 jets. You can hear me say jets a year. It's not the Homeboy Shopping Network. I'm talking about a real business. He's employing people, and he goes back to the lower neighborhoods and he donates planes to children and gets them to dream again. Can you believe how good God is?
Yes, he is.
This man is 16 in Jericho Road. Give him some love. Some would say that Jamel's a freak. I think he's a freak of nature. I want more freaks. I want more freaks. I want that to become normal. Jamel's an eagle, and eagles don't fly in packs. You've never seen a flock of eagles. But one of them can change the world. One of them in your schoolhouse, one of them on your street, one of them in your family, one positive person with a vision to change the world will light your community up. Dr. King only had 60 people in the civil rights movement, only 60 people in the SCLC, with a $600,000 annual budget. Can you believe this? Change the world with a $600,000 budget, 60 people and a vision, and never fired a shot. What can we do? What can we do? I know I'm boring you, so I'm going to bring this home. When we started Operation Hope, we were dismissed. We were discarded. We were told that this was dreaming. Yeah, I'm a dreamer. I'm a dreamer, to quote Dr. Dorothy Hyde, I'm a dreamer with a shovel in my hand. We're not victims. And we're not through. In fact, we've only just begun. A young man came in my office with a dream to become a clothier. No one would listen to him, no one would give him capital. We gave him a $35,000 loan, put him through credit counseling, financial literacy training, entrepreneurship training. Gave him confidence, gave him a role model. After 18 months of sticking with this young man, his credit score raised 130 points. You know what it's like to raise 130 points of a credit score. Takes you from predatory lending to mainstream banking. He could walk in the bank with his head up high and fill out his own application. And yeah, we backed it, but he got that loan and he paid it back. The $35,000 investment in this young man, he's doing $1 million in revenue today. It's called Drove Code, and he made the suit I'm wearing on this stage. So yeah, I'm talking about dreaming, but I'm talking about waking up from that dream and living it here at Rutgers. I'm talking about a conference. We're here today, but I'm talking about a movement that goes beyond this conference and shakes up the world tomorrow. What are you here to do? What's your legacy? What's your purpose? Are we just here to get paid? Because nobody will care. If that's your mission in life, no one will care. To live with something larger and more important than yourself, to do well and do good, to do well by doing good, to build up a company, employ people, and give back to your community because no one's going to save us but us. So this is a rallying call. The rallying call to your spirit. The rallying call to your soul. It's to suggest that we're in a 1 in 100 year opportunity to change the world. That not everything bad during the Great Depression was bad. In fact, out of that came the modern social safety net, came the FDIC, the modern Federal Reserve, and 20 years later, the Marshall Plan, which rebuilt countries that had bombed to put America on the global stage. 20 years to change the world. What are we going to do in the next 20 years? What are we going to do with this crisis? The Native Americans will say, every decision you make impacts 7 generations yet unborn. Let me get real personal. Watch how you live your life. It may be the only Bible that anybody else reads. See, you thought you were coming to a conference to show you how to get paid. But you leave today able to show the world how to build wealth. You are role models. You are heroes and you are sheroes. History will write about your travails. You are going to build companies and create employees. You're going to rebuild America. You are